For the past year, the Democratic Party has been going through a reckoning as they decide what their identity and message should be heading into the key midterm elections. First, there was the pivot away from the so-called woke issues after the party's rhetoric on gender identity moved the electorate toward Trump by just over 2 points, according to an internal Kamala Harris poll. And now the party will have to decide what to do with democratic socialism after socialists had key victories in Manhattan and Seattle last Tuesday. Famed Democratic strategist James Carville and the architect of President Bill Clinton's path to the White House had this to say recently on the path forward.
What people will tell me is, James, look, you've won this fight. AOC has scrubbed her sight of all pronouns. They just don't talk about it anymore. Let it go. I'm not sure these people are worth the trouble. I know that they've taken their pronouns down. I know that we don't talk about transition surgery for prisoners, anything like that. But maybe we need to just affirmatively attack it.
James Carville joins me now. James, I listened to a lot of your podcasts yesterday, and you posed an interesting question. You said there's the Ezra Klein view. We're a Big Tent party. We welcome everyone. And then there's the other view that you're a democratic socialist, not a Democrat. So I'm curious where you land on that.
Well, look, we're a coalition, and a coalition always wants as many people as it can in its coalition. But when one part of the coalition becomes destructive to the other parts, then it's time to reconsider your relationship with it. Now, the identity left, which I call it, or you can call it woke. I hate the word woke for good reasons, but I won't go into them right now. I think we have to not just say, well, you lost, you know you lost, so we're just going to move on. We might just have to affirmatively attack it because it was so stupid and it was so unpopular and no one wanted to use that kind of language. And it was a giant mistake. That's all I can say. It caused real damage to our electoral process. No one uses it anymore. So people say, oh, no, James, just declare victory and walk away and be nice. And that's one option. The other option is to say this was a really, really stupid era in a wing of Democratic politics that caused irreparable harm to the party. That's pretty close to my view.
Yeah, and we saw Gavin Newsom make that point. Look, biological men shouldn't be in women's sports. He was pretty overt about it with Charlie Kirk. You know, James, I also want to play this. You had this to say about the Supreme Court recently.
They're going to recommend that the number of Supreme Court justices go from 9 to 13. That's going to happen, people. They're going to win. They're going to do some blue ribbon panel of distinguished jurists, and they are going to recommend 13, and a Democratic Senate and House are going to pass it, and the Democratic president is going to sign it because they have to do an intervention so we can have a Supreme Court that the American people trust again.
James, President Biden didn't do that. He said, look, I'm not going to pack the Supreme Court, but you're saying a future Democratic president will?
Well, they should, because the public has lost faith in the entire branch of government. I mean, this is the lowest the Supreme Court has been rated. And if you believe, as I do, that we need faith in not just the executive or the congressional branch of government, but the Supreme Court. And it is not written anywhere in the Constitution you have to have 9. That's just a number they came up with. I think it went from 7 to 9, but I'm not sure. And I think the way to cure that very quickly is expand it to 13. And get some balance on the court. You know, the Republicans won the popular vote, I think, 2 out of the last 8 elections, and they have 2/3 of the Supreme Court justices. They have 6 out of 9, and that's absurd. It's a distortion. The Supreme Court does not serve the law. It serves the interests of the Republican Party and corporate America, and everybody knows that. And I think it would be a good idea to return some balance to it. I really do.
I would note that the Supreme Court did rule against Trump on, his financial documents by way of example, but this backfired when FDR tried it. FDR wanted to pack the court, and it was widely seen as a political mistake. So could it backfire?
Look, anything can backfire, but what is backfiring is a court that's slavishly adhering that says that President Trump is above the law. I don't think it's ever ruled against corporate America. And Trump may very well lose his tariff case, because when Trump's interest comes against corporate America's interest, I think the Supreme Court would take corporate America's interest. They never rule against corporate America. And I just think that it's dangerous to live in a country where you lose faith in one branch of government, and that's what's happening. And across the board, people don't think that they're objective. They don't think they try to follow the law. And I think it's a dangerous thing. And it backfired. It certainly backfired on President Roosevelt, but he seemed to get reelected after that even. I mean, it wasn't, let's admit it, it wasn't that fatal. And I also think that the Democrats are going to have to move to admit the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico as states, because right now, because 18% of the United States elects 52 senators. That's not even close to a reflection of the democracy in the country. And there's a way that you can address this imbalance. It's permitted under the Constitution.
Yeah,
and it's something that we should look at.
You are correct. It's permitted under the Constitution. But to make D.C. a state, to make Puerto Rico a state, to pack the Supreme Court, essentially, you would need 60 votes. And you're not going to have 60 votes in the Senate. That's just not the way the country is made up. Are you going to eliminate the filibuster?
Well, I would carve out for those two things, yes. I think when the country is faced with a national emergency, and I think we're faced with a national emergency, they've carved out the filibuster for judicial nominations.
But isn't that carving out the filibuster just for political reasons? So make carve-outs to help Democrats win?
Why does the Senate do anything other than political reasons? Of course it's for political reasons. Everything they do is political. I like when somebody said they're attacking President Trump on the Epstein because they're trying to hurt him. Well, of course they're trying to hurt him. And just like when you would attack President Biden on Hunter Biden, you were trying to hurt him. That's part of politics. You've been around too long and you've been too effective at your job to know that what both of us do ultimately is about politics.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you admitting the naked political ambitions of packing the court and making D.C. a state.
I'm a nakedly political guy. I am naked political
indeed
all the
you
time,
are.
and all I want to do is win elections.
Yes, you do, and you're transparent about it. So that's
Right.
interesting. You've also been transparent. JD Vance, you've said he will be the nominee in 2028. You say he's effective. I agree with you. He's incredibly effective. Who's going to be on the other side of the ticket? Who, in your estimation, on your side?
I'm kind of rethinking my JD Vance. Sometimes I've changed when facts change, I change my mind, as John Maynard Keynes ever said. I don't think Trump likes Vance. In a couple of comments that I've heard, he's been a little bit cool toward him. And I think that MAGAism is going to outlive Trump, So I pull back on my prediction that JD Vance is going to be the next nominee. He could be, but Trump's had a couple chances to really praise him, and it's kind of been pretty tepid about it.
I've heard him say Vance, Rubio over and over again. But wait, your side of the aisle was the question. Who's your guy? Is it Newsom? Who is it?
Oh, I don't know. And I will say this in all sincerity, there's more talent in the current Democratic Party, and that will be running for president in 2028 than any party has ever put forward.
Can you name the top two? Can you name the top two?
Well, Kaylee, you know it better than I do. We've both been in this business. If I name three people, two people are going to call me and say you didn't put it on the list, okay? But there is a wealth of talent. Some of it is known. I mean, Newsom is certainly one. I don't, if he wins, the big mistake we made is not having a contested primary. If you remember on July 7th in the New York Times, I said there should be 4 town halls. And the Harris people shut it down. She had no opportunity to show us what she could do. No one wanted Biden to run. We had a catastrophic nominating process in 2024. By the way, we only lost by 1.6. I want everybody to run.
Okay.
I want people to look and say, oh, gee, these people can string a sentence together.
Can I tell you, because we only have a few moments, can I tell you another huge mistake of your party? Not listening to Senator John Fetterman. That is the single smartest guy you have in your party. He doesn't hate. He says it like
Well,
it is.
if John Fetterman is the smartest person in the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party is in really, really, really deep trouble.
Oh, wow.
Really deep trouble. Well,
Hey,
John Fetterman,
we'll take Senator Fetterman over here. We'll have him. We got a Big Ten over
if I
here.
want to listen to somebody from Pennsylvania Democratic Party, I will listen to Governor Josh Shapiro every day, 7 days a week.
James Carville, we disagree. We disagree, but I appreciate you being transparent. All right. Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.